right? So everyone, what I am about to present to you are something that, like I mentioned earlier, that it is related to what we had been go over before in the previous session, and you can check that on our YouTube channel in the Buddhist knowledge playlist. And so far we had been over with the law of karma, or karma and its function as the topic, and also the introduction to the Buddhist cosmology. And that's continue on from the Buddhist cosmology is rise and fall of the universe and its time scale. So that's here today we are going to be reference on these two as well. For those who are having questions, you can go ahead and, if you sometime during the presentation, I sharing with you, and sometimes you not get, you can also share it with your, in the chat box, all right? Or you can ask after our session. If you have to go somewhere, don't worry. It's already recorded, and therefore you can go and take a look after the session is over on our YouTube. Now, let's begin with our presentation. All right. Yes. Here we go. Just one moment. Sharing my screen. Oh wait. I have to pull this up first. There it is. Well, I don't have much time, so as it is, it's not thing fancy much, so the presentation is quite bland. If you are very art and creative, that would be great. I will send you presentation to help me, to help you do, help me make a better presentation. I will be really happy to do that. All right, let's begin with our presentation. Right? Can everyone see it? All right, let me check. Thank you, Claudia. I see you're sharing now. All right. Okay, there it is. Yes, here we go. Today we're gonna go over for the time scale and rise and fall of the universe. Therefore, it's gonna be connecting. Since from a previous episode or previous session, we talk about the Buddhist cosmology, which is quite new, and of course, it's mostly mentioned and only in the scope of the Theravada Buddhists. So that's today also gonna be presented in the perspective just only in the scope of the Theravada Buddhism. But if you have a knowledge or previous knowledge from Mahayana Buddhism, it could be similar or could be different. However, for the difference, I cannot tell. Or for the similar neither. The fact is that I am not very wide knowledge in the Mahayana Buddhism much yet. But in the future, when I have time or an opportunity, I will study furthermore. But either way, now I'm just going to present in all the Theravada Buddhist, okay? So let's begin. Right? As for it is, everywhere in our world, it uses the time as a measurement or the date. So that way, we can understand where we are and how we go. Same thing in Buddhism too, but it's quite long period of time. Speaking of in the presentation of the time scale of the universe in Buddhism. So therefore, what we are going to, just one moment, all right, the same, okay. It's gonna be something in this unit and scale. Okay, the first one is coming with the number. As we all, when we count something, we use the number 1 and 2 and 3, right? In Buddhism, since the time scale is quite very large and long, thus they use this term. It's called, the first one we call is asongkhaya, as you may say in it means incalculable, and it's also equal to the number 10 with the 140 zero after. If the number of the 10 is representing 1 year, with this 140 zero, that is how long is asongkhaya. Okay, but these usually go by the number. Okay, it is also the unit that is called asongkhaya. Okay, it's representing incalculable years or incalculable time. It's so long that unable to count. This is how long in the time scale of the universe that mentioned in Buddhism. For the next one is in its analogy. Well, usually mentioned as supposedly there is a huge rainfall all day, night, and long in the period of 3 years until it fills up in the entire universe. That would reach about this 1,000,000 and 300,000 40 34,004. This will be about the length of the number, and if you can count the how long I'm not really good with the number at the moment, but either way now, that's how tall, how big of the universe. And also, I mean, if the water is filling up in the universe, and the number of the raindrop, that is the number of the year is count, and if that can be count, that is number of asankaya, just one. Okay, but as it is though, we're not going to go into that too much deep, but either way, it's just making you the ideas, give you the idea now that how long it is. Okay, but as for the measurement of the age of universe, the Buddha also mentioned that asankaya in year, another unit representing each asankaya year, is equal to 10 to 140. Okay, that's how long is the asankaya year, the unit number that's going to be presenting. So the first one we mentioned now is asankaya. The second is asankaya year. Okay. Now, as the number it is, you already got the idea. Now, as for it is, another unit that's going to be counted in the time is the Earth age or eon. But in the Pali term, they call kappa, not the kappa of the monster in Japanese, April, not the monster with the plate on the head, not like that. But this kappa is the number of the unit that counting. And this kappa or Earth age, or sometimes known as eon, is divided into 4 types. Okay. The first type is called lifespan or ayukappa. Yeah, I know it's quite confusing, but it is something that is quite new. So let's take a look at it first. But either way, this is how it's gonna go. I will explain bit by bit. Hopefully my presentation is not confusing to you guys. I myself too take a look because it need to be translated from Thai into English. So lifespan first, as the 4 type. Wait, let me take a look just one moment. Oh, okay. Okay, yes, okay, that's correct. Okay, just one moment. The lifespan, no picture here though. The lifespan is depend on the time of the humans. It is said and mentioned in Buddhism that the time of lifespan of the human is changing according to the time they are living in. The lifespan in here that mentioned is called ayukappa. It is the average lifespan of the time at a certain time. For example, the average lifespan in our time right now is people having lifespan about 75 years old. If they can live longer than that, that is, people who have a long life. But if live shorter than 75-year-olds, it's counted as people having a short life. That's the average lifespan. But as it is the time of the Buddha, about 2,500 years ago, the average lifespan of people is about 100 years old. So that you can see now, the time of the people living in different era is also changing. And according to Buddhism, it is mentioned that every 100 years, the lifespan of human decreasing by 1 until it reaching to human lifespan to 10 years old. Then it will rise up again until it reaching about 100,000 years old, and then it will decreasing again. That is how it's go, but I will explain along after this. Okay, so this is lifespan. So this is the ayukappa, but we're not going to mention about this much. It just mentioned that the people at this time, they have ayukappa about 75 years. That's how it is. Okay. Now the second measurement is called sub-eon, also known as Antarakappa, that has been mentioned earlier, that people lifespan up and down. Let's take a look here that I put it together, make it easier for you guys to understand. The time it takes for a human lifespan to reduce from a Sankaya year, which is about 100,000 or more, down to 10 years, and be restored again back to that year. This is one cycle complete, up, down, and then down, up. It will be reaching this one that once complete cycle is called sub-eon or Antarakappa. Okay, understand this part. It means that people, when they are living for a long time, they begin to be careless. They thought that they would be thinking like this, that, oh, I can live forever. I have a long time to live. So that's, they begin to be careless. So they do more evil things, do things that could hurt themselves and others. In other words, create bad karma to themselves rather than try to do the good karma. So in the end, their lifespan begin to short. For example, in the time of the Buddha, or in the time before our time, the food is making neutral, right? We eating no toxic, no chemical. The air was fresh, but when the age of steam or using machine or using nuclear power plant, it begin to pollute the world. And the food that we eat also begin to decay. Then the fresh and natural food, it begin to mix with chemicals. So that's causing our life and our body to begin to deteriorate. So that's, we are not healthy like we used to be in the past anymore. So our lifespan begin to decrease. And this is from the karma, from the desire, from the mind that is not really pure. So that's therefore, it's called us everything relating to the karma that we have done, like I had mentioned in the previous session as well. So we're down like this until people reaching 10 years old. At the time, it's also mentioned that the people begin to not talking to each other anymore. Their mind are filled with anger and hatred. They just looking at each other and they begin to just killing each other off right away. I think it begin to show the sign at our time too. I'm sure you have heard the news, right? You just having hating against or discrimination against each other without knowing each other before, but they just have that kind of feeling. People at the same time at that age, when they have a short lifespan, that is how it begin to, people to have short lifespan and hurting each other. And so as it is, what happened after is that, well, when people are killing each other off, there will be another people who are feeling hurt, feeling they do not like to live in a society like this. So they went to move themselves living in, yes, in the forest. And they begin to practice what they call right now 5 precepts. But at that time, they do not have that knowledge anymore about 5 precepts. But they know one thing, that if they want to live long, they should not hurt each other. So they do not kill. And to help each other, they should share. They do not steal. And to live together with trust, they should not commit sexual misconduct or adultery. And to gain trust, they should not lie. And thus they begin to practice this. Their lifespan begin to increase more and more very fast. 1 year, while practice of this 1 year, it increased the lifespan to 10 years, more and more until it reached to Asankaya years again. Then it's coming back. So that's how it is. It begins to repeat in cycle like this. And so that's one. The second one, the third one is called the world cycle quadrant. This is when we're going to be focusing on most of it, or on this time scale. Hopefully it's not too confused for you. This sub-eon is about 64 sub-eons to complete. In other words, people having lifespan up and down 64 times. This is one cycle quadrant. If you have one cake, you divide it into 4 cakes, just like in the picture. Each cake, each piece, that is worth about 64 sub-eon. Okay, this is called world cycle quadrant. And each 4 of these, this is how the world is created. And we will go over that in detail after this, right? Hopefully it's not too confused. Are you with me, everyone? Look at your face. Okay, you shaking your head. Okay, I see. Then that's good. All right, let's continue. Now, as for this, okay, the first one is quite difficult to read. Let me see. It's called Sangwatta Asongkai Kap. Sangwatta Asongkai Kap. Okay, but in English, this is how to pronounce Samwatta Asankaya Kappa. Okay, this is the time period when the world or the whole universe is getting destroyed, but mostly the earth and everything around it is getting destroyed. Well, it is also what the scientists has been explaining in their theory about the science about the Big Bang theory. This is also the beginning of that. But when the world getting destroyed, we're gonna go over that. How does it get destroyed? Okay, this is the period. It takes about 64 cycle of human lifespan going up and down 64 times. This is about this how long it is. And once this period is over, it's gonna go into void period, which is called Sangwattatayi Asankaya Kappa. Okay, when it's going to flame, then begin to burn down, turn into void period. When everything is get destroyed, that's one period. But when it's cooling down, it take about this 64 sub-eon too. So when it's everything to be calmed down and turn into nothingness, this is take about 64 cycle or 64 sub-eons. Okay, and when this turn this period down, this is when the world begin to create on the third period, which is called Vivatta Asankaya Kappa. Okay, this is when the world begin to create. And how does it create? I will go after this part. Let's go over on this time scale first. Okay, when the whole world is going, the whole universe is turned into void, then eventually it create itself again by its own nature. In other words, our world, our universe, or many universe has been mentioned. It has been going to this cycle period over and over uncountable time. That is why the period in the time scale in Buddhism is very long and unable to be able to count. Okay, so in this period, when the world begin to create, of course, there's no life form just yet, and this is when the fourth period, when the world begin to, they call it the golden age too, begin to have life, born, and begin to live in its cycle until it destroys itself over again. This period is called Vivattatayi Asankaya Kappa. Okay, this is when the earth is having its golden era, when life begins to be born on earth, living its life with nature until it's destroyed the nature by its own hand. And that's turned back into the cycle period of destruction again. And this is the time period of sub-eon, take about 64 cycle of sub-eon to be complete. And when this over, another fourth period, the fourth subscale of it is called Mahakappa. This is the complete circle of the whole universe has been created and destroyed. This is called Mahakappa. This, if you take 4 cake pieces together, each cake worth about 64, combine them together into one piece, it will be about 256 Antarakappa or sub-eon combined together. And that is called Mahakappa. In short, they call one kappa. Okay, this is the world cycle complete. And this is how the world is being created and the time scale, the length of the universe that's been mentioned. Now, the kappa analogy, sometimes you may be confusing how long it is. Well, let's take a look here. Supposedly, there is a huge and solid mountain, high about 16 kilometers in width, height, and length. And once every 100 years, a man using a fire code from the kingdom of Kasi. Kasi is the town in the time of the Buddha. They produce cloth as their exporting item. It said their cloth are very refined, very thin. even thinner than, they call it thinner than a smoke, very light, very fine, soft to the skin. And use this fine cloth to rub off the mountain. When it takes the whole solid mountain to be shortened down into the ground, that is take one complete cycle of kappa. In other words, when this complete, this whole mountain is totally gone down, yes, that is how long it takes for the whole world, the whole universe to be created and destroyed again. Another analogy from Sasapa Sutta mentioned in here is that a city surrounded by a huge wall about 16 kilometers in length, width, and height is filled with the flower cabbage seeds. Every 100 years, a man removes one seed out of the city. The time it takes for all of the seed to be removed is shorter than one kappa. Imagine how many seeds it has to take once every 100 years. Then that's how long it is, and it even longer than that. So this is how long it is for the whole universe to be created and destroyed over and over again. And so in here, now let's see someone sending the chat. Let me take a look. All right. Yes, more than millions of years, million of years. That is why we are unable to tell because it's go by, but there are some reference. It's even mentioned that the dinosaur that we used, that we met them before as the remaining, they used to be our body. I mean, the human life used to be body to be bigger, way bigger. But it's just that as our food, the environment that we live in begin to deteriorate by the people mind that causing to each other to destroy each other. So that's therefore time and food, everything changed. So our body not used to be big anymore, shrinking like that. And so that's how it is. Now, when we talk about the origin, the birth of the universe, okay, let's take a look at the world in its, of course, in every religion, it has the story about the origin of the world. What about in Buddhism? Let's take a look in here first. Mentioning earlier in the void period until it has been created again. Before we go over this part, let me take a look at on the reference of every religion first. That in Christianity, they have the Bible about Adam and Eve. In Hinduism, they have their own God created the world. In Buddhism too, they have the story of how the world is created. But it doesn't feel not reference to superpower being, but it's more reference on people's or all the beings' mind. Everything changed according to the mind of the beings that live inside that place. So that's, if you are recording from what you have learned from our session in my own about the benefits of meditation, that the mind also affect the environment. The mind can also affect the world. You will see, understand, reference to this part that no one can destroy the whole universe but our own mind. So, but not just one person, every being inside the universe also having its effect to the whole universe as well. That is why in Thailand, they have the proverbs that are analogy they mention about that by picking of flowers on earth, it could affect the moon. Making one change, small change, it change the whole thing too, but just tiny effect. But that tiny effect, when it's by many, it changed too. That is how it is. So that's in the origin of our world. In other words, I mentioned in here, the origin of our world is because the Buddha mentioned that in this world, at our time that we are living in, is like this. In other words, there are more, the world has already been created and destroyed many times over in different ways. Therefore, just mentioned in here is only in our world, in our time right now. Okay, but there are other worlds that's been happened or created before us in different universe, in our time too, but it's been destroyed previously and now it's been created again, but in different ways. So that's just mentioned in here, just only in this time. Okay. Now, after a war period for a long time, there was a rainfall. And this, at first, the world, the rain have a small, tiny drop of rain. But as time goes, it begins to get bigger and bigger. Bigger into the biggest size that mentioned in the scripture is that it's about the size of the palm tree. That's how big of the rainfall drop. And when it's getting that big, it floods the whole universe. But you maybe wonder, how does the whole universe been flooded? Because there is void. Yes, that is by own nature. When there is void, there is also wind. When the water begin to fall down as the rain falling down, the wind begin to hold the water as some period of time when the water when it's flooded with rain. When the wind hold the water, that's how the whole universe get it flood. And once the whole universe been flooded with water, at some time it begin to, it's kind of like when you have a water on the you put water and you boiling when it's begin to hold bar on the wind, the surface of the book, like when you have you ever I would call cooking some soup. When you stirring them with the heat, it's very liquid, but when it's begin to dry or begin to cool down, the surface of the soup, it begin to harden. It's kind of like that. So when the whole universe is begin to cool down, there are no more rain. The water begin to clot by itself, and that is the surface of the world begin to create. But at the time, the whole universe is flat. It's flat. It's flat. But as time goes, this is when the being begin to come to earth or come to the world. Okay. Oh, I haven't made it complete yet. Okay. As the earth begin to the land begin to surface on top of the water, and the water begin to cooling down. The surface of the land, they call this earth crust. And of course, if you recall from the Buddhist cosmology, that there is three spheres: sensual sphere, the form sphere, and formless sphere. The being from the form sphere begin to coming down to earth because the smell and the temptation is attract them. They want to see what is the world has been void is look like after it's been created over again. And in here, it is always have, when there is the land, there is plant born in the land as well. The first plant that born into the land is called lotus. Yes, lotus flower. And when it's born in here, the lotus will be signified. It's mentioned in Buddhist scripture that the number of the lotus would be signified how many Buddha will be born onto the world at that time. But it's usually no more than 5 Buddhas. Sometimes if their land there is no lotus, it signifies that in this world there will be no Buddha born on that time period. But luckily, the world that we are living in, it has 5 lotus flowers. That signifies that there will be 5 Buddhas born onto this land. But unfortunately, 4 have already been born, leaving the next one to be coming in the future. When and how? Maybe we can learn that about making of the Buddha later on. There are some people in my previous session that are teaching want to learn about how can one become the Buddha. That's the making of the Buddha. Maybe we can learn about that later on. But anyway, let's go with this first. Okay, let's take some time to prepare too. Either way, how it is that when these beings, or they call the Brahma beings, come into the land, this Brahma being, They are just like you see in the screen here. What happened is that they usually have their own radiance. They don't need light. They don't eat. They can fly. But because when they fly, their body they call refined astral body is very pure, but the land is very impure. So when they see the earth currents, it said that it look like cheese, and it's very smell. You know, you can smell like when you make a pizza, right, Eileen? You can smell pizza, right? It's very smell very good like cheese, right? Same thing. The earth curd is like cheese. So they just want to see what it tastes like. At first, when they try it, it tastes very good. So when they try more and more and more, it takes some time. It's not change instantly, you know. They try more and more, and they begin to talk about each other. When they go back to their realm, then when many more coming in, when they're coming in, they eat more and more. Now they cannot go back because they take something impure into the body, so they cannot fly anymore. So when they cannot fly, they cannot go back. So that's they become the first being on earth. And as that time, their lifespan has been over. Now at the time, the human, they do not have the Brahma, they do not have gender yet. Okay, when they don't have gender, therefore, their whole world are just like they're just like the flat land with many beings, the Brahma being living on it. But as time goes, when it's take a long time, okay, long time. I could not tell how long it is, but in the scripture it said it's take a long time. When there are coming, the Brahma coming into the world, living as a human being in there, they do not have gender yet. But as time goes, when they die, they do not die just like our human being and decay. They just disappear. And when we're born again, they just born instantly. They don't have to go. They do not go from small into big, but they instantly become big right away. They call this spontaneous arise or spontaneous birth. Okay, they are like that. But as their karma are not even, each being have different karma. So some born as human, some born as woman, some born as men. But because at the time they do not have clothes, you know, so when they're born again, some as a woman, some as a man, so they have seen something different. So their desire begin to, their mind are not pure from the beginning. So when they see some change, they begin to have sexual conduct. When sexual conduct begin at the time in the society there, they do not like this kind of activity. So it's kind of like if you do some kind of sexual act, it's kind of like this disgusting act. So they will be drive and getting away from the society. But as time goes, so since sexual conduct is really something very ugly or disgusting act in the society, so they have to build the house. So when they build the house, yes, at first they're eating earth, the land to help to live them survive. And the body is very pure, so it can absorb all the nutrition from the land. But as time goes, they begin to eat more and more. Their body begin to become impure. The land also changing because the mind of the people changing. When it's the mind people more impure, the land instead of become the earth curd, now they have the plant is growing from the land is called rice. The first rice has a lot of nutritions. When one eat, one don't need to do anything. So the people in the past, they do not need to work. So when they have sexual conduct and they build a house, they begin to store the food. So when they store the food, greed coming into their mind. When greed filling their mind, they begin to steal because the food becomes scarce, difficult to find. So storing food more and more, whoever have more, they begin to steal and hurt and kill each other. And that's when people begin to, hurting each other, stealing things, they need someone to be a ruler to control and issue the rule. And that's why they call the king, the ruler, the king has been assigned. At first, they choose the person who has very just and right. And so this has been titled as a king, the ruler of their community. And that is how the society has been created. But at the same time, there are people who are living within the community, but they do not like how the people act. So they went to live themselves in the forest and they practice meditation, try to find peace in their mind. And their goal is that they want to go back to the Brahma realm. The only way to do that is to purify their mind. And they lived off themselves by going from arms round. And this tradition has been long from the past. The monk go for arms round, begging for food is long tradition since that time. People who do not or unable to support them to do like this priests, people who are trained themselves in their mind. So they give in their food, they share their food to support this priest. And that's the occupation or the monk occupation has begin to surface onto the world. The king and then the people who are working as investor and the labor begin to surface too, because they have to work in society. And that is how the caste system come into the world. And you still practice this in India. But because people have different karma, their appearance, their wealth, their mind also different because of their karma. But because of this, they are different into the caste. And that's if they have discrimination against each other, whether they have darker skin or white skin or yellow, it doesn't matter. Whoever has its brightest, more radiance, more good look, they will begin to discriminate against each other. And that is how it begin to having this thing system into the society. That's this kind of hatred is being created for a long time, and it still continue until now. But as people living on, because they have done some killing or bad karma in their past too, so that's when they die, as no one living on forever, the karma begin to cut up. So that's begin the birth of the animals. And also in the universe that has been destroyed, the soul that living in that universe also need a place to be rebirth. So if it come from different universe, but that karma cannot helping them to go living in the Brahma realm or in the heaven, so they will be born as an animal in the different universe. So that's in our world. The being from different universe has been born into the animal, and everyone has that three defilements in their mind. They call this ignorance, greed, and anger. And having ignorance as their base in the mind, the animal that eat meat their mind with having more anger than greed. They will be born as an animal that eat meat like a tiger, a lion. While the animal that eat vegetable or eat plants, they have more greed than the anger, like elephants, like a horse, something like that. But if eating both plants and meat, they have eager and greed equally. So this is how the animal has been born. And they've been born at the beginning, there were only elephants and horse. These are the labeled animals. According to the Buddhists, those who had done committing of a crime for corruption, they will be born as a labor animal for people to use because they living off on other people's back. Like if you are a politician, then you corruption using money from the tax people, tax money, you use living off on other people's money. So in the end, people are gonna use you as an animal to pay it off, and that's how it is. So you're gonna have to pay back. That's how the karma of an animal has been created in here. So as it is, but then when pig, dogs, snake, all these begin to be adding into this world because they have karma tied to each other. At the beginning, human, when they see animal, they don't feel things. But when the karma that tied to that animal, for example, one may have killed this kind of animal before. When they see like say they when they see a pig, they just want to kill. They don't want to do anything with that. But when they kill the pig, at first they don't eat meat. Humans don't eat meat, they just eat plants and things. But as time goes, when they see animal, the karma that time they kill animal. When they kill animal, they don't know what to do with it. They just leave it there. But sometimes it was, have a fire, and the fire burn that dead animal. It make a good smell, so they try it. So when they try to eat meat, they begin to interest and share the taste, and that's how humans begin to eat meat from that time on. And as it goes, and this is how the society has come into. But as time goes in the future, the destruction of the world also created by people's mind, and also destruct by the people mind as well. And as it is, the people mind has been this by this, I would call the agent of destruction that destroy the world, predominated by the mind. If in that time the world has been destroyed by fire, it's because the people in that world having more anger. But this is common, okay, it's common. But more severe than the fire is water. If the time the people has more greed, the water will flood the whole world. But the most destructive of all, but this is said that it's not often much, but once in a while, depend, be destroyed by the wind, because the people at that time has ignorance. What do you mean ignorance? The ignorance that born into this world, people don't need to do any good deeds, don't have to do anything. They just, everything has its own. It just happen and create. So we just enjoy our life, do whatever we want. So if the more people have like this, the mind are more ignorance. That's it would have to win, destroy the whole universe with that. And so, how would it affect? Let's take a look in here. For the agent of destruction, let's take a look at the reference of our three spheres first. The sphere that we are mentioned here, are there multiple universe rising and falling simultaneous? Yes. Even they are mentioned in here by the Buddha in the scripture that even though he is passing away right now, at some time in a different universe, there is another Buddha's teaching as well. At some time, the universe, another universe also got destroyed or about just create, depend on where it is, but simultaneously like this. Okay, yes, good. Wow, we have to talk. That's good. Sending more questions like this, Either way, as it is, you see in three sphere that we mentioned in previous section. Here, if it's destroyed by the fire, okay, the three sphere mentioned in here are the sense sphere, form sphere, and non-form sphere. Okay, the scope of the destruction by fire. Okay, we are getting there, everyone. If you see the red line, that is how it affects. The central sphere will be destroyed, and the first level of the Brahma realm will be destroyed as well. And that is how the effect destruction by the fire. But what about the water? Same with the picture, but it will go to the second level of the Brahma world. And water by destruction by the wind, it will be on the third level. And this is how the whole universe got destroyed. But of course, it's not going to be destroyed the non-form and also the form sphere on a higher level. And that is how it got destroyed. But either way, it is how roughly introduction of how the world has been created. But all in all, these are linking to reference of the karma or the human mind. So that's everyone. This is come to the conclusion of our session today. However, if you understand on this path, on this what I am mentioned here now, you will see that everything that we have done, that we have do, even though less or small, it does affect to the universe as well. That is why on this 22nd of April, the UN has recognized it as the Earth Day, come to save the world. So I would like to everyone come join us on the event. If you are living in the US time, you can join on the US time. We are gonna setting up at set the event. You can check on it out on Zoom, or on if you want to check on the Asian zone time, you can join us as well. So you are all welcome to join us at this time for the Earth Day. And so everyone, before we part today, well, is there anyone like to ask anything? Now is the time. Ooh, okay, cool. Buddhist knowledge. Well, yes, it is amazing, of course. But the thing in here is that all the knowledge that I just shared with you has been described 2,500 years ago by the Buddha. But how did he imagine? Most people thought that he imagined. But the fact is, it's called what is the ability they call is insight, the knowledge that arises in the mind when your mind becomes still. And everyone can access that as well if you practice meditation and you do it correctly and by still your mind. And then you will find that knowledge in yourself as well. No need anyone to tell, no need anyone to do for you. You can do this by yourself. So everyone, I would like to invite everyone to practice continued meditation, okay? And so, anyone, the notion of eternal sight explained. Yes, well, I'm glad we have these important teachings, although we eager to understand what are the law of the life. Where are we currently? Well, okay, that's a very good question. At the time, the Buddha has already been passed 2,500 years ago, approximately. And the thing about that is, at the time when he was born, his lifespan was about, his average lifespan, the time of the people at that time, is about 100 years old. And every 100 years is decreasing by one. Okay, take this note. Now it's about 2,500 years. So average lifespan begin to coming down to 75 years old now. Until it reached average lifespan reaching to 10. Then every years, and when it reaching 10, people begin to hate and kill each other off. There will be a group of people living in the mountain, like I mentioned before. And this is when they begin to practice observing precept. The lifespan increasing every 1 year by 10. And it will keep reaching like this up and up and up until it reaching about a Songkhaya year, approximately I would say more than 100,000 years lifespan of a human. Okay. When it's reaching like that, they will get careless again and they'll begin to hate and kill each other, having greed and defilements in feeling more in their mind. The food and lifespan begin to decrease. When it reaching lifespan of 80,000 years old again, that is when the new Buddha will be arise. This is where we are. When the new Buddha been born again, he will teach and people doing good deed, but this time it will be decreasing again too. At once, as nothing lasts forever. It doesn't say when it's gonna be over, but when it's time to decrease again. Depend now. If the people are not behaved, they could destroy the whole universe. Depend. But that will be the sign though. About 100,000 years before the end of the destruction or the end of the world, there will be a Brahma being coming down and mention that in the next 100,000 years, the earth will be destroyed. So practice and hurry doing good deed. They will announce and tell everyone, warning as a sign. But of course, those who believe they will continue to do good deed, but those who don't, they're just gonna live their life in reckless way, waiting for the time, because it seems so long. So when it seems so long, they could not see that when it's gonna be over. But when the time comes, it will be too late. And that is how life is so precious. So everyone, do not live yourself reckless way without doing good deed every day by practice of sharing, observing precept, and practice meditation regularly. Hopefully this could be helping you there. Okay. Now, are there multiple universe rising and falling simultaneous? Yes, of course. Therefore, there are, just like mentioned in the previous session now, that there are many universe, and there are three groups. One group is the small group of universe is about 1,000 universe inside in it. The medium size is about 1 million. The largest size is about 1 billion universe inside in there. So therefore, it's just so unable to count how many universe and how many beings are living in there, suffering at this moment. But as it is now, we are part of that universe at that moment. We are just tiny cell in there. Therefore, the only way to free us is if you take a look according to the sphere that I show you, you will see now that if we can break off from that sphere, we are free from this cycle of rebirth. Only then we can and find ourselves eternal happiness. And that is the aim, the highest aim of Buddhism. And the only way to do that is practice of stilling mind through meditation. That is how it is. That is why meditation in Buddhism is just more than just relaxation. It helps you to find your true inner self, which is purity. So everyone, good luck and practice of meditation, okay? Now, there are more sharing your knowledge. Thank you for doing this, bro. Of course, for next week, if there's anyone having questions, we can discuss further on this. But what next topic is going to be for next Saturday, I will announce that later on. Okay, so hopefully this could be a good ending at the time. Now it's almost an hour and a half. I think you all need to go have lunch too soon too, right? And I have to go to bed. So everyone, keep your curiosity in mind. You can send a question in and we can discuss on that. Okay. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention here that since on this week, Thursday, it is Earth Day. Okay, so that's on this Wednesday, there is no My Journey because we're gonna do broadcast regularly, but we can do special on Earth Day instead on Thursday. So let you know ahead of time. So that we'll post again too that there is no My Journey on this week. So everyone, good luck and have a good day. See you again next week. Thank you for joining us. Oh, before we part, Prill, you do your job taking good photo.
Okay, everyone, I cannot speak that loud, but I would like to tell that it's very precious for us to learn the knowledge from the teaching monk, and we should greet him by saying Namaskaran together. Namaskaran first.